think we're live. Hey, everybody. It is Friday, January 7th, the first Friday of the new year of 2022. And we have a very good friend of mine, a special guest, Katharine Loucaidou from Ontario, Canada, joining us to talk about a lot of different things. Let's get rocking and rolling here. We'll be right back.
Real estate agent, are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder podcast.
And here we are. And we have, I do this same thing happens to me. I start playing it in the background. I panic when it's on my phone. But anyway, here we are.
I can't even figure out how to share it to my page.
Well, I tell you what, this is a great way to start the year. I was very honored. I was very honored, Katharine, to be on with my friend and your friend David Greenspan to end the year with his Mindshare 101 podcast. And here we are. What a great way to start it. I mean, you and I met a number of years ago through John Cheplack, and we've followed each other, and now we're on the same team now, so to speak, and we're in the same company.
Are.
That
Yes.
is really extremely exciting for me. I love now I get to work with you. I can say that I work with Katharine Loucaidou.
Yeah,
so
we get to collaborate and do things like this, which are always fun.
it's absolutely amazing. So anyway, we are on Real Estate Talk, TGIF, episode 187. And we have done these. Today will be 184 weeks in a row. We have yet to miss a week, and that is our goal, to never miss a week. So we'll see how that goes. But you know what? Here we are, and it's you here. So I do have a quick question for you before we get into the meat of our discussion today. And that is, what does TGIF stand for?
Well, during the pandemic, it's, thank God it's Friday, but really, I know they say in real estate, well, Friday, there's no Fridays. What does Friday mean? I don't know. I when I say thank God it's Friday, I kind of like thank God it's every day. I'm just happy to be, open my eyes every morning. So, I don't really think of a thank God it's Friday. I kind of like every day when I get up.
You know what? I agree with you. And it's like, I was in the supermarket last night. We were supposed to get snow. And what happens in this part of the country when it's going to snow, people just go to the supermarket and they take the milk, the eggs, the whole thing. Yep. But because they had snow south of here last week, everything's empty. Nothing's there.
Yeah.
And I got upset, right? We got a little snow. I said, you got to be kidding me. So, you know what? We got some snow yesterday. We're doing well here. And the answer, I'm gonna give you the answer to the question, because one of my friends, listeners, watchers has the answer. And here it is. Thank God it's Finale. Thank you, Harjeet. That is Realtor Jeet, a great young lady, hardworking agent from New York. Thank you, Harjeet, for that. And so anyway, here we are. Okay, enough of the pleasantries. Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to it.
Katharine, you've been in the real estate business since 2009. You started basically, I think, just like everybody else, you had your struggles and stuff. And I want to talk to you today about how you've progressed and how you've built the business so that we can share that with people that will see that there's one sure thing that we see when all of my guests, and they all started from zero and have built the business one way or the other and have had failures, have had mistakes, but they've learned and they haven't been setbacks. So talk to me about year one to where we are today. How did you get here and what were the trials and tribulations?
Wow. Well, I know I can definitely say I got here through being curious and education. First and foremost, you have to be curious if you're going to do well in any business, especially business. And so when I say curious, what that means is I started from the ground up. I had been living in Europe for 18 years, moved back to a town I had not grown up in, and I didn't know anyone here. So then I decided to change careers because I had been a teacher before that. And, where do you begin? I mean, I showed up at, I was working at a large franchise back then, showed up on day one, sitting at my office. I got this office and I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I'm like, well, what do I do now? I was a teacher before. I had a syllabus. I knew what I was teaching. So where do you begin? So I began with education. I started buying books on sales, on marketing, on psychology. I had taught communication, so I knew how to talk to people. What I wasn't sure about was, how do I merge communication and real estate? And then what I realized over the years is that you don't merge them. They are one in the same. So how did I get business? Because here's what happened. My first year in real estate, not knowing anyone, having moved from Europe, I made $100,000 my first year in the business.
Wow.
And I did that by asking the secretary of every office to put my name out on a page and say that I would do anyone's open house anywhere, anytime. Just send the open houses to me. And that's what I did. The entire year, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, all I was doing was open houses, because I knew that if you put me in front of people, I would be able to talk to them and, hopefully convince them that I was, the person to either help them buy a house or sell a house. But here's a funny story. My very first open house, where did my education come from that open house? From HGTV. So I have a clipboard of the questions I've been hearing them ask people on HGTV. So I have my clipboard, I've got my questions.
Amazing.
Young couple walks in the house, beautiful house in an area nearby. It was an expensive home, 3,000 square feet. Husband and wife walk in the door. I look at my clipboard. I'm all dressed professionally, and I start asking the questions that are on the clipboard. And it was questions like, if this were one of the 3 houses that you had seen, what is it about this house? They're like, we haven't even seen the house yet. I was like, right. Okay, let me show you the house. And this went on so awkward. After about 5 minutes, the husband looks at me and he says to me, you've never done this before, have you? Worst sentence you ever want to hear from someone. So
True.
Right after that, that's where I started. I mean, one after another. It was books. It was Gary Keller's books. It was anything I could get my hands on. Now we're going back, 12, 13 years. So you weren't just pulling stuff up off the internet. There wasn't a lot of content back then on the internet. So it was ordering books, going to bookstores. What could I find on sales? What could I find on psychology of buyers? I was really into the psychology of a buyer, the psychology of a seller, the psychology of someone on the receiving end, and then the psychology of me on the end of trying to sell, which I don't even use that word anymore.
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly. You don't sell, right?
No. Now it's just talk, relationships.
Right.
And so that progressed. So then, of course, I started with no money. And so what do? How do you market with no money? And I had a computer. I had Microsoft Word, and I printed out calendars like the Microsoft calendar on colored paper. I inserted events around town. I inserted holidays, and then I put at the very bottom, if you'd like to know how much your home is worth, please call me. And I would stick a chocolate with it. And I went door to door handing out this Microsoft Word calendar that I had made on my computer in a little bag.
So this was just one piece of paper then? Was it on cardboard or just a piece of paper?
It was on a pretty colored cardboard.
Oh, wow.
That was like the teacher in me. I mean, what do? You start doing arts and crafts and trying to give those to people.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the crazy thing. I got 2 calls. And so people said, yeah, can you come over and tell me what my home is worth? So of course, that's my first listing appointment. So I have nothing.
Right.
So I went there and I brought, statistics and what houses were worth in the neighborhood. I knew I was smart enough to do that. Anyway, I did get that house. and I sold that semi, and, a lot of people came to open houses back then. So I would, find a lot of new customers, and then I would be helping them. I was a follow-up maniac. When you have no sphere and you do not have any family or friends who plan on selling, because you don't even have a very large family here in Canada, what you do is you rely on those leads or the prospects that you're meeting. And that's what I did. That became my world. My world was my database, which had, first it had 5 names, then it had 10 names, then it had 15. But I would follow up. I was always, right there on it. New property came out, I was emailing it out. And this is where it all started to happen. And we feel like it's a slow process. But in fact, if you just keep at it, it grows and grows and grows before you even realize it. So I actually have a treat today because I've been reorganizing my office. I actually have this I first used, and I thought it would be great for some of your audience, especially if they're newer agents, so they can actually see, we didn't just appear where we are. We went through a process to get here. And when I first started realizing that I needed to door knock and I needed to send out market reports and things like that, this is the binder that I kept. And you'll see here when we talk about farm areas, I Google map of the farm area, and I would highlight the streets that I was walking. So you can see there's highlights. I would walk all those streets, and then I would actually include the letters that I was sending the people, and I would include the addresses of things that were returned. And this is month after month after month, numbers and phone numbers of people. So my strategy was drop the market report off in a letter or mail it to them, then call them a week later, see if that would progress, and it did. And so then I had to work on the listing presentation. So I attend this meeting, and I'm talking a lot. I apologize, but when you actually go back in your mind to those early years, it's amazing. So I was told we had to have a brag book. This was the advice I was given. You need a brag book. I was like, what on earth am I going to brag about?
Here's the interesting part. We didn't talk about brag books after like 2006 or 7. It was in the 90s. In the 80s, we talked about a brag book because we had the internet. Who needed it? Go ahead.
Right. So here is the brag book that I created. And this is what I would do. It was a show and tell. I would go, and because we really didn't have the Facebook was there, but it wasn't used as we use it today. Right. So, in order to tell someone that I had been, number one agent, I would laminate the newspaper articles. Yes, so there's Katharine, number one agent in the office. And then I would even bring along like the memos that they would send out in the office. And there's Katharine number one, there's Katharine number one. And this is how I was showing people like, I know what I'm doing. Look, my office sent a memo. So, we have to start somewhere. And the idea of the brag book, I do understand, right? You're trying to show people that you have credibility. The credibility wasn't around as much as it is now, because now you can just pull up a web page. You're going to pull up someone's social media pages and you're going to see all the pretty houses that they've sold. But back then, we actually had to compile them in a book to show them our value. Exactly. So here's what I realized over the years. From this book of what we call bragging, I have now gone to this is it. This is what I walk into a listing presentation with. And again, I still do show and tell because people are visual creatures. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's text for those who like to read, because we know about 30% of the population likes to read, 70% of the population likes pictures. So that's what I did. I give the picture and I give the explanation, which is the value that I offer when I go to sell a property. But my goal now, as I've learned through the years, here's what people want. And if whoever is watching this right now, I would write this down. Your customers aren't curious about you. Your customers are curious about how you can solve their problem.
That's right.
So when you go to a listing presentation and you sit there and you start talking and talking and talking, and you're telling them that you're the number one agent and whatnot, they know who they called these days. They called you for a reason. Now they're giving you the floor, but you should give it back to them, because the more they talk and the more you listen, they will tell you everything you need to know about the situation.
So I want to repeat that. Everybody, I'm going to say it in Dave terms, right? So here's the thing. You were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much or more than that than you speak. Number one, you need to let them talk so you can discover the best way to how you can help them. And the more they talk, the better rapport you build, right? So if you're making statements, unless it's about statistics that they need to hear, it's about you. When you're asking questions, letting them talk, it's all about them.
Yes.
Right? They want to be the star of the show, even though they think you are.
Yeah.
Is that right? That makes sense?
Always. And, the feeling, and this is the other thing, ask yourself before you walk through any door to meet a buyer or seller, what feeling do I want them to experience from me? What is the feeling? Do I want them to feel like I've educated them? Do I want them to feel, happy? Do I want them to feel inspired? Do I want them to feel confident?
Right.
And confidence is a huge, huge factor in who they decide to go with. And many times when I'm coaching agents now, after so many years, and it's so many years of trial and error that we learn these things. And if you remember, I started this podcast or your video with the word curious.
Yep.
And curiosity is huge.
Yep.
Because if you remain curious about people, curious about your profession, it means that you're interested in others, right? Be a person of interest, but be interested in others, because there are 2 parts of your business. One is the business aspect of it, and the one is the marketing. The business aspect is about creating the relationship with the client. And there's no relationship if they can't know you, like you, and trust you. And we know these 3 words very well.
Right.
How do you establish that? You establish it by being curious and then just closing your mouth and just listening, by asking question after question after question. The more questions, the more you find out. That's what leads to a successful agent. And that's what I've noticed over the years. And, as I used to be a university professor before. So research I did a lot of, and that's all I've done since I got into the real estate industry is research on people, the process, the systems, and the strategies. And in a nutshell, it all comes down to listening.
It really does. It all comes down to listening, and your process through building your business. I just want to go through a couple of things because there's so much here. I want everybody to listen that to start, you did not have a sphere. You didn't know anybody in the area. So you did open houses. And I'm not talking about around here in like my area, or a lot of North America. People are doing open houses on Sundays for the most part. Sundays. You said Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Now I got to ask you about the Thursday and Friday night ones. Were they night? Were they day? What were they?
Yeah. So I used to call them twilight open houses.
Twilight open house.
Sometimes I would call them a wine and cheese open house. Sometimes I would call them a VIP open house. I always gave them a name. And can I just give you a little story about why we give things names?
Please.
Okay. So
I love this.
my previous life, I always call it my previous life when I lived in Europe. So in between the teaching, so I've never been a very simple person. I've always loaded my plate. And when I was teaching, I also decided to open a business. You okay?
Yeah, coffee now the wrong way. Go ahead.
Wrong way. So I decided to open a business. I had always wanted to do this. I opened a 5,000 square foot indoor playground.
Wow.
And oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. Yeah, when you're in overseas before you came over, you open a 5,000 square foot playground.
But what were we talking? Oh my God, it's right here. It's right here. It's going to come out.
A name for everything.
A name. Thank you. Okay. So I have this place and we cater the parties, right? So I had a kitchen and we're catering in Europe. Everything, it revolves around food. And anyone who's European watching this, they know that every party, it's always about food. So we catered entire meals for people. And I was making cookies, cakes, and so on. And I had the fridge. And so I would make chocolate chip cookies and I'd put them in the fridge and they would sit there. And I would make a cheesecake and I would put it in the fridge and it would just sit there. And I couldn't understand, why are people not buying the chocolate chip cookies and the cheesecake? So what did I do? I made little signs on my computer, Microsoft Word, because back then we're talking, 16 years ago, little signs, and I called them American chocolate chip cookies. The cheesecake, I put a big sign and I said, New York cheesecake. Wow. Guess what happened?
Everybody ate it.
Started buying them by the dozens. They would come to the party and then they would want dozens of cookies to take home. They were asking me to make whole cheesecakes for them. So when I never forgot that people need some kind of a brand. They need to mark something as something. When it's no name, it doesn't work for them. So fast forward to the open houses. This is what I would do. It was called the VIP. It was called the Twilight. It was called the Evening Wine and Cheese. But what it would do is it stroked people's curiosity. What's she doing? Why is she having an open house on a Thursday evening from 7 to 9? And even if I got 2 or 3 people, it's never about the people who walk in the house. And that's the mistake people make when they do open houses. They are classifying the success of the open house by the number of people who came. It's actually about the number of people who saw you were promoting an open house.
That's right.
That's what it's about.
That's right. Because people, agents are going to do, let's do an open house so I can get buyers and stuff. And the seller thinks you're doing it to sell the house, but obviously it's for you.
Well,
and
it's kind of like multi-purpose, because you absolutely want to sell that house.
Right.
But you also want to show people that you do things just that little bit differently. And when we talk about value proposition, when I ask agents, what is the value that you offer? And they kind of stop for a moment. It's that thing that differentiates you. And what is that? What is it that you do in your business to make that little difference to people?
And that's one of the questions I've asked. I asked Jason, who was on last week, and also talked a little bit with David Greenspan recently, is what, if you ask an agent, what is their unique service proposition, their unique value proposition? And I'm going to think that 90 to 95% of the agents out there don't have an answer for you. I use professional photography. Okay, so does everybody else. What else? Right? It's just one thing after another. Well, I'm honest. Okay, so is everybody else. And that's how it goes. You need to be able to actually spell out everything that you do and the things that are different. Because let's face it, I'm huge into a phrase, the art of differentiation. So if you're going to be different, and basically, you know what, Katharine, different, it only is what you're doing, something that other agents refuse to do.
Or they stop remaining consistent doing it.
Right.
Your value proposition may be the fact that you're consistent.
Right. Exactly.
It could be as simple as that.
Right. So if you look, just consistency, right? So I'm gonna pat myself on the back, and this broadcast is a example of consistency. 184 weeks in a row. I will not stop doing it. Yeah. There's just some things that I do that others refuse to do. And
that's right.
And basically the reason I started doing this broadcast was because I saw someone doing it. They did a really poor job. If they showed up, maybe they were drinking, maybe they weren't. I said, what the hell is that? And that was 3.5 years ago. Right. And I said, you know what? I can do a better job. and I will show up because I'll do it whatever it takes. There's other things that I have taken on that I do all the time. I mean, I do something every morning having to do with people I know, with birthday videos. So, and people know me for that. And so it's something that I'm known for, and you're known for this. So, all right. So you built your business on that. You're with a franchise company.
Yeah.
And then you do the unthinkable that I would say to a lot of agents is you open your own brokerage.
Yes.
Right? So I love the reason you opened the brokerage and what you wanted to do coming from a franchise. So talk to me about that, Katharine.
Right. So leaving the franchise, it's a model. It's a business model, and
Right.
it's made to be profitable. That's fine. It's business, but it's just not the way that I wanted to do business anymore. And I had found my way of wanting to do business. But I had also realized at the same time that because I was a very capable person and I was a broker and I had gone on and studied, I mean, my education never stopped. My book, I never stopped having a book in my bag and a book on my night table all the time. Till this day, if you go to my house, there are 3 books on my night table that I'm, going back and forth. And there's also always books in my bag.
Right.
But what I decided was that I was going to create the anti-brokerage brokerage. And I didn't want agents to feel like they were a number. I didn't want you to feel like you were being herded into an office and it was going to be a mass kind of training. And when I say mass, as someone who taught for over 20, 25 years, what I know is that when I have a classroom of 30, 60, 90 students, because in university, I could have had 90 to 100 students in a class. How do you appeal to 90 different learning styles? Well, people and agents are no different. Exactly. If I have an agent who's been licensed for 6 months and I have an agent who's been licensed for 5 years, 10 years, is my training going to be the same? Generally speaking, yes, except that you have to speak to the different levels while you're giving the same talk. You have to be visual. You have to provide text because people have different learning styles.
Right.
What I noticed and what I decided was, what if I could teach the agents all of the tips and strategies that I've learned over my, I think it was 7, 8 years by the time I opened the brokerage? What if I did that? Could I replicate the results that I had had because I had done very well, making 100,000 my first year. And my goal was always to increase that by 20%.
Right.
So by my 8th year, I was doing very well. Could I replicate that? And in fact, I did with the very first person who walked in my door. He walked in with an average GCI of about 30,000 a year, and he had made that for 6 years in a row. And I said, there's a lot of gaps in your knowledge. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in those gaps, and I'm going to give you systems and processes. Are you willing to be coachable and to put in the work? And he said, I absolutely am. So he started January. I opened my brokerage the end of November 2017. He started January 2018. By November, he was already at $120,000 GCI.
That's amazing.
Because he just followed the process. And it's really that simple. As well as, I work on mindset. I work on communication skills, right? So it's the whole, I tell everyone, you've got to become a 360 business person. It's not just contracts. It's not just marketing. It's not just your mindset. It's all of it together. And that whole person becomes successful.
Well, yeah, it's sales, it's administration, it's marketing, it's education, it's being that trusted advisor, it's being that personal consultant, as it were. Yeah. I want to dive into this a little bit deeper.
Yes.
He had gaps in his business. Talk to me about that person, but also as you move along in that discussion about typical gaps in real estate agents, if there is such a thing.
Well, he had the typical gaps, and I can confidently say that I am 100% certain that agents who are not thriving and increasing their business 20% year over year over year. The reason that's happening is because they don't have a solid foundation. So if you were to rewind your business and go back to the beginning, did you start the business with a foundation? Meaning, did you create a not a website, a database, a CRM? In that CRM, did you start adding people, their birthdays, their anniversaries? From there, did you create an email campaign that goes out to them twice a month? From there, did you add them to a list of birthday cards, anniversary cards that go out every month? From there, do you send out, because don't forget, we are so online these days that when you send something by direct mail,
yes, ma'am,
it will blow their minds because no one's doing it anymore. And isn't that what we always keep saying? How are you differentiating your services?
100%. Yes.
And, I just sent, I'm actually going to read the message to your audience.
Go ahead.
13 years that I'm still doing this. And I sent out Christmas cards this year. And I decided that I was going to put in a $2 scratch card that had little candy canes on it. And I put that in everyone's Christmas card. This is the message I got back, but I want you to hear what she actually concentrates on. Hi, Catherine. Happy 2022. Mel just came from the mailbox and we received your card. Thank you so much for the personalized note. That was so nice of you. I'm always excited when we get house notifications. I can't wait to buy a house this year. Personalized. I didn't take the shortcut, which I could do after 13 years, and pre-print the card, pre-print my signature. Personalization in life means everything, And I think that these are the little things, the little nuances that a lot of new agents coming in want to. How quickly can I do it? How can I make this easier? But easier is not always better, right? There are certain things that you still have to do.
Yeah, I think we all need to, you look at things and people want to do things and there's these quote unquote perfectionists that want to make sure everything's perfect before they do anything. And I call them, I tell them that they're diseased with this disease called getting ready to get ready, right? Mm-hmm. They don't understand when you have good, better, and best, that good is perfect, right? Good is good enough. And you don't have to be best. It doesn't have to be perfect. One of the things that we spend a lot of time on is when we're talking with video with agents and we tell them, just do the video, don't watch it, and post it.
Yeah.
Make the mistakes.
I heard something really good on a podcast this morning that I was listening to, and it's someone who has created 13 shows on television, reality shows. And what he said is absolutely true. The first time you shoot a video is the most authentic take that you will ever make.
Yes.
The second take becomes a performance. The third take becomes theatrical.
Right.
And
I got to tell you that what I tell all the agents I work with, and I work with a lot of different groups and people all over North America, I tell them when you do the video, your first take is always going to be the best. There's no question about it.
Because it also mimics real life. I mean, you're not stopping this now when I couldn't remember what I was talking about.
Right.
We didn't pause it and say, oh, well, hang on, let's start again. It just happens. It's life, like this, it's true. It's authentic.
It absolutely is. And it's like, so you made a mistake. So you said something wrong. I've had people correct me, because maybe I went off on a tangent or something. I've had other people correct other people. You say too much or whatever. You know what? I get that. And if you're one of those people that are listening, that can be really annoying. But here's the thing. We are being as authentic as we possibly can. You can use authenticity. You can use transparency. You can use abundance. You can be contribution. All this stuff that we talk about that we want to be in our lives and in our businesses is what makes us who we are. And and the people that don't want to do video, I get that. That's cool. No worries. But understand that my crappy video that I make mistakes on is better than a video that you're not doing. right?
Yes.
And not only that, is if you're worried about what you sound like, what you look like, guess what? That's what you look like. That's what you sound like. I mean,
That's just it.
and we all have, believe it or not, we all have these little critics that are actually looking out for us. I'll give you an example. So I posted a story this morning on Instagram from working out, and it was about, should I be wearing a hat when I'm running inside, right? And I was sweating and stuff, and I didn't read it, right? So like an hour later, I get a text from my daughter that says, "You said you wrote rubbing, not running." So I said, I think I better take that off, right? So we have these people that do care about us that are going to help us if we make mistakes like that.
Yeah.
Now, if it didn't mean anything, it was just going to be funny for a typo, I don't care. And honestly, I don't care too much about typos in a lot of things I send out, because what did you say? You said it's real, right? I didn't go to school for public typing. I went to school to be a better person, to learn more about business. So anyway, so I can keep going on and on. But anyway, so it's how you're going out there and what you're doing. So what do you think was one of the things that was able to catapult your business to number one, going from Remax to your own place, and then the recent switch you made?
Right. So here's what we think. A lot of people think that everything is so different. So I'm opening a brokerage, and it's an independent brokerage with a whole new name. So how are you introducing all of a sudden the Property Gallery, which was the name of my brokerage? I mean, you're literally pulling it out of the air and saying, "Hey, people, this is a brokerage now that you should feel confident about." The mistake that people make is they get so fixated on the name of a company. People are not hiring the name of the company. They are hiring you. So it doesn't matter whether I moved from the franchise to my own independent. It's you who's selling. And so when I was recruiting agents and attracting agents to the company, and they would say, but you're not really anybody. And I said, well, why don't you define what that means? What does anybody mean?
Exactly.
And I said, I am the Property Gallery. So it is me who will be teaching you the strategies and the processes. You have followed me on social media. You have seen my success. That doesn't change because I've created this company. However, if we were to look at the marketing aspect of it, now, how do you market an unknown name in a city, in a town, and win the best brokerage of the year after 12 months? The way we do that is exactly the way we do real estate. You start by doing one thing, but you have to become, and write the word down, omnipresent, which means they have to find you everywhere all the time, or at least have the notion that you are everywhere all the time. So what does that mean? It means that you're in the newspaper, you're on social media, you're on a billboard, you're on in the mailbox in a postcard. Wherever they look, it feels like you're everywhere. And it's done strategically, because people will always say to me, does a newspaper ad even work? Of course it does, as long as you're doing social media.
Yes.
Right? And nothing works alone, ever.
No.
It is a system that works together in tandem, because people will say to me, well, what's your ROI on a newspaper article? I said, that's not the point.
No, it's not.
The point is being in front of people. And one more quote that I want your audience to write down, because it's really good. It is not your customer's job to remember your name. It is your job to stay in front of your customer, right? Absolutely. It is not your customer's job to remember, because people will say, I hear this all the time. Oh, well, I helped them buy the house 3 years ago. Why did they list with someone else? Well, did you stay in touch with them? Did you create a relationship? Do they receive anything from you on a monthly basis? Do they receive anything from you on a quarterly basis? Are you sending it online and offline? Do they see you in the street? Do they see you in the newspaper? If you're not sure how this marketing thing works, All you've got to do is start looking at companies, McDonald's, Apple, Adidas,
Right.
Nike, and just go on. Ask yourself why, since 1971, is McDonald's still advertising? Because they have to. If you don't stay in front of your customer will not remember you. It's
That's right.
that simple.
That's right.
So that is how I branded a new brokerage with an unknown name in a town, was because I made sure that it was everywhere all the time. And
Yes.
it worked.
Yeah. And I want people to know that Katharine, you and I met a long time ago at a couple of masterminds, and you actually presented the process of becoming omnipresent. And it was just like, I mean, I knew the word, I used the word, but the moment I saw your presentation, it was when it became a word that was in my vocabulary all of the time. So everybody should know that the way you became number one in your company, your franchise company, was that you became omnipresent in everybody's mind head. Wherever they went, there you were, right? There's other processes, guys, to do this. But one of the things that Katharine said is that you need to be everywhere, right? You need to be on the phone, in the mail, on a billboard, on a bus, wherever you want to be, you need to be there.
Time.
At the same time.
All at the same
Right.
time.
So when they look up, they see you, right?
Yes.
And social media is so important to that, because here's the thing. There's a lot of people in this business where you go look, they're in real estate and you go look them up. You can't tell what they do. You can't, they're a secret.
I do it all the time on social media.
Right.
I don't know where they work. I don't know what they do. You know, you have a profile there for a reason. Tell me what you do so I don't have to go. Because here's the thing, is that the public isn't going to search for you. They're either going to see what they need or they're going to move on. It's that simple.
So let's put one other thing together with that, is not only do they need to see that you're in the business, they need to know how to contact you. Because let's do a scenario. I call a for sale by owner and they're a little bit of a pain in the neck. They don't like me. They hang up on me, but they like what I had to say, but they were embarrassed to say it. So what do? They got my name. They're going to look me up. Where are they going first? They're going to social media first, right? They're going to Facebook mostly, and then to Google, right? And you need to be there. Now, number one, they didn't write your number down. They didn't write your email address down. You need to be there, and you need to have a presence that says, yes, I am in real estate, right? And if you're not doing that, you're making a huge mistake, and your business is really not going to flourish. Now, I will say that there's a lot of agents out there, top agents that have been in the business a very, very long time, that don't have that presence, right? But you know what? If you want to get in,
they also, there's that, or then you either have a really big sphere and referral network, right?
And
you've got to have that. Like, you can't not have that and then think that people are just going to know who you are. It doesn't work like that.
So I want everybody to realize that Katharine was able to almost literally parachute into a new area, build a business without knowing a soul. Yeah. Right. And people say, how do I do that? And I can give you another example. Tina Cole did the same thing. She moved from Michigan to North Carolina, one of the top agents that we know that we collaborate with. Right. So it's about doing your job. It's about, doing exactly what you need to do on a damn near everyday basis. Yeah. Right. I mean, okay. So
consistency is everything.
Absolutely. So here's the next question that I'm sure some people might be thinking about. Well, Katharine, you said I had to be everywhere and I have to do this, I have to do that. There's two problems I got with that. Number one, I don't have the time. Number two, I don't have the money.
Right.
How do you answer that question? That issue?
Okay. So first of all, you always have the time, because we have 24 hours in a day. Yes, and when I've had agents say to me, I just didn't have time today. I said, well, let's take a look at your schedule. So why don't we write down everything you did every half hour today? And the problem with that is that there's a lot of big open gaps with Netflix, with Instagram, TikTok, and the list goes on, because they are deep, dark holes that we get lost in. And that's where time just goes. What I tell people is, if you need to become productive and you need to become disciplined, all you have to do is time block. Because, according psychologically, our minds can only do 60 to 75 minutes of focus at a time, which is why if you watch a movie, some parts of the movie, you'll be like, I don't even know if I remember that part, because your mind started to tune out at the 2-hour mark.
Right.
So if you want to become highly, highly productive, start with 45-minute blocks of time. And first of all, map out what it is that you need to get accomplished. And when you start your marketing system, where are you starting first? Start with the free items first. Yep. Free means you're putting in the work, which equals videos. When you were talking about Google, Dave, the first things that will come up on a Google search are videos. You pull up my name and you're just going to see a stream of photos and photos and photos of videos that are on YouTube or on Facebook. So that is your free way of marketing yourself. And if you say, yeah, but I'm not going to do video. Well, if you're not going to do video, then you're going to have to spend money. And if you don't want to spend money, then you're going to have to go knock on doors, because none of this happens on its own. So you're either going to pay for leads or you're going to work for leads.
Right.
But one of the two has to happen.
Right. So when we talk about, I'm so glad you went into this time blocking thing, and you did not use the phrase. Guys, understand and note that there was a phrase not used here. That phrase is, or 2 words, is time management.
No,
it's not about time. And you know, Katharine, as well as I do, our good friend John, it's choice management. It's about the choices you're making, and it's about what you're doing. Like, for instance, what you're saying, just to give everybody an idea, look, this is a process that is difficult. It's not easy, because if we're not used to watching our time, we're not used to that. And if you had a 9-to-5 job before, you just went there and got stuff done. You just knew you had to get done that day. You didn't block it because, you know, it was what you had to do. So I use Google Calendar, and I have different blocks. But what I do every night is I go to a book like this, and I write on one side all the tasks I want to complete. And then I take the time blocks I have on my Google Calendar, and I fill in those time blocks with that list. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I have tried over the years so many things to get me to do it right, and it hasn't worked. This is working for me.
Yes.
This is working for me. Yes. So I tell everybody, look, it's difficult. I mean, you said 60 to 70 minutes. For me, it's about 6 to 7. So you're not alone. I'm there too. And okay, so there's another problem. They get waylaid and they chase squirrels and they go down rabbit holes. That's why you have I don't want to call it a phone. I want to call it a mobile device, a smart device that you can tell it, wake me up in 8 minutes, right? So use this device that way. And I use it every day. Like this morning, I had a couple of things to do. I said, okay, how am I going to do this? I went overtime on one thing and overtime on another. So my time was cut. Okay. I said, Siri, give me 10 minutes. Give me a 10-minute countdown. So when I finished that, I went to the next thing.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, it's we learn every day.
We do. Right? And here's a question. You know, I always, when I'm coaching agents, I always tell them the first thing to become successful is you have to become brutally honest with yourself. And I always tell agents, so after you've written down what you've done every half hour of today, if you were your boss, would you have fired you now? Because how productive were you? If they were paying you a salary, right, did you earn that salary today? Right. Likely you did not.
Right.
So, you know, this is just about getting disciplined. And it's also, I also believe that it is how badly do you want it? How badly do you want to do well? And, you know, do you want it as badly as you want a holiday, right? Because when you want a holiday, you really want a holiday. And think about how much research you do when you want to go on a holiday. Do you put that same amount of effort into your business when you want to start a new marketing system, or you want to figure out how to post on Facebook, or what's an Instagram hashtag, or how do I do a new Instagram reel? You're waiting for someone to tell you, go online. It's there for you.
Right.
Look it up.
That's right. That's right. I mean, anything I do, I mean, I use Google, and I use the all famous YouTube University.
Oh, my family laughs at me. I will literally Google, like, I don't know what I was doing the other day. Oh, I was looking for a specific video, or no, I was looking for a painting for my office. And I actually put in, find me a painting with blue, white, and gold with lines and guess what appeared?
Exactly what you asked.
Google's algorithm is so good. Anything you can imagine is there.
I'm glad to see you do the same thing I do, because I do that too. I mean, it's a tool that you've got to have. And you know what, guys? Okay, so I'm going to go back. I mean, as far as technology is concerned, when I first got in this business, our technology was really super cool. We had a typewriter with 3 colors. That was our technology. We were the only company in the area that had a typewriter with 3-color ribbon, right? So if you think that was pretty cool, use Google. It's there, right? So anyway, so we've hit a lot of things today. The omnipresent thing, guys, you got to understand how important that is. And
I'd like to touch on one more thing.
Go ahead.
Because I don't want anyone to leave thinking that the marketing thing is easy. If you don't know, before you start pushing anything out to the public, you have to ask yourself, who am I? How do I want people to perceive me? Because your message to the public is really important. So you've got to know what that message is. Is the message that you are trustworthy? Is it that you are transparent? Is it that you educate? Is it that you have the lowest commission? I don't know. But what is your message? And then when you're about to push that out, who are you pushing it to? Right. Do you know who that audience is? And what does that audience need? What are their problems? Where do they eat? Where do they shop? Where are they families? Are they singles? Are they millennials? Are they retirees? If you can't answer these questions before you start marketing, you will waste your marketing dollars. You've got to be really crystal clear on all of these things before you start to spend money.
100%. You have to be crystal clear on where you're going to do that. And also, you also need to understand that you might not get it the whole time. And where are you going to go to figure it out? Okay, well, I know David, I know Katharine, but there's also Google, so I can do that as well. But you need to have a path and a plan. And it's just so very important, right? Yes. So, yes. So if there was one thing that you could tell new agents, stuck agents, and agents that want to scale to grow their business, what would that be, Katharine?
It would be to stop working on your website. Stop making pretty business cards. It would be to sit down with a mentor, sit down with someone who's been in the real estate industry and get them to help you map out what systems and processes look like and have a list of activities and tasks that you should be doing every single day. I have this for all the agents that join me, because if I can't get you, if you won't make your own list on your phone the night before of what you need to get done, then I always have a list and say, listen, this is what you need to do today. You need to do 1 social media post. You need to send out 4 cards. You need to, if you have a guideline, that's all you need. And then slowly you start to create your own. But stop trying to reinvent the wheel or think that you're alone in this. No one's ever alone. You just haven't asked, who can help me? Who's willing to help me?
So you have to, in other words, get into your own groove of what's going to work for you and what you're going to have fun doing. Because guys, if you're not having fun doing it, I mean, there's fun in learning how to do difficult things. There's a lot of fun in that. And then what I always loved when I had my own brokerage and my coaching clients is I get a call or they walk in and says, Dave, it worked. I mean, to me, that is so cool, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have your information on the screen. You gave the greatest advice that at the end to that one person on how to build their business. We're up against time, and I want everybody to know that Katharine was on episode 58 before. That was a while ago. I'm going to see if I can open that up real quick. Let's see. Will it open? No, it won't open for me. All right. So it was episode 58, and it was a long time ago. It was almost a year, 3 years ago, almost.
Wow.
And so, I thank you for coming back on episode 187.
Thank you.
And you're very welcome. This has been great. It's so great to to talk to you again, and now we can really grow our business together. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and I've got to ask it because it's in front of me. Talk to me about, if you can, in 30 or a minute or less, your switch from your brokerage to where you are today.
Best decision I've ever made in my entire business career. It's that simple. I have never encountered a more phenomenal business model that concentrates on what agents need, their problems, and how and it solves their problems. So as real estate agents, we look to see how we can solve our clients' problems. EXP solves agents' problems. And it's the most, I've never been so mind blown by the sheer intelligence behind this business model. It's
Right.
incredible.
Right.
It's something I could never have done with my own brokerage. I could never have offered the opportunities that EXP offers agents.
Wow, what a soundbite I just got. That's excellent. I love it. I mean,
You see how fast that came out? That's what we call authentic, because I literally feel it.
Right.
You know?
And that was not planned. We weren't going to talk about it, but it's like staring me in the face, and your wall is beautiful. I mean, everything you've done has been beautiful. I've watched you. When you opened the brokerage, I said, wow, does she really want to do that? And then you just took off. I said, yeah, she wanted to do it. Right. So all that in mind, I have one question. I have two more things for you before we end today, which were a little over time, which is fine because we had some technical difficulties in the beginning. The first thing of those two is, how do I, Dave Finale, real estate skill builder, whatever, help you, Katharine Loucaidou, grow your business? How do I help you?
Well, you are going to be a guest to my EXP community on Tuesday, which I greatly appreciate.
Absolutely.
Because you are going to launch my 2022 with the agents that I have there. So we are looking forward to everything that you're going to bring with you on Tuesday.
That's going to be great. That's going to be Tuesday at noon. And for those of my mentees and my coaching clients watching this, that usual noon time is going to be pushed to 1 for you guys, just so I can do this for Katharine. Okay. And last but not least, we spoke about this before we came on the air, that originally you didn't get this when it was sent out into the mail. It got lost in the mail.
It did.
So everybody on this broadcast gets a hat. You're going to get one of these hats. I'm going to send it to you, and hopefully it gets to you.
When it gets to me, I will take a picture and I'll put it on social media.
There you go. Right. And just, I mean, this is what we do. I mean, it's just, I must have given out about 150 of these so far, because we didn't do it at the very beginning. Yeah. But you know what? They're getting better and better, these hats. So thanks to my buddy and partner, Mark Stein, for hooking me up with the people for the hats. But Katharine, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You know, we're going to go off here. Just stay on for a second. And everybody, next week, we have a really great guy. His name's George Castro. He's the owner of Premier Homes, a former Century 21 franchise owner. Now he's an independent. This guy knows his stuff. He's from Central New Jersey, and he is just one classy guy. And he's going to be on talking about how he's built his business. So as we move forward, Katharine, thank you, everybody. We're going to be on again next week and during the week and everything else. Don't forget, Scripts and Dialogues is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Reach out for me to get the link. And thank you so much for watching today. Well, there's our two pretty pictures.